Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. So, this is part two of my summer 2025 recap. Part one, I went over all the success stories, the winners. Here, it's polar opposite. Going over all the losers, the flops, disappointments, any negative adjective you can think of. So, yeah. So, as I mentioned in part one, summer 2025 did live up to expectations. It was expected to be better than last year. It ended up being ever so slightly worse by like 1%. And part of the reason why that was, besides the lack of an insane blockbuster, is the fact that some movies didn't do as well as they should have. Some by small margins, some by large margins. And that's what we're going to be talking about here. Just a little note. A majority of the movies I'm going to be talking about in this video are all like small movies that had like basically 2 week runs, really week long runs. They're like wide releases that just came out and disappeared very fast. With those, I'm going to go through those rapid fire style because they're not really that important. I'm really only going to be focusing on the flops people actually paid attention to. Okay, so just wanted to make you aware of that. Anywho, so start with May. So May 2nd. Well, first we have some small movies to get through. First we have Rosario, which no one paid attention to. It didn't even make $1 million here. I'm going to show you right here just how these movies work, where they open wide and then they die. They disappear so fast. It's just like they never existed at all. I know the main reason why they do this is because they release them in theaters so they can prop them up for PVOD, a premium video on demand like release. Like I get that. Doesn't mean I don't find it annoying when I have to make these prediction videos. I mean, I guess it's more videos for me, but I'd rather be talking about movies that, people are actually going to pay attention to. And then you got The Surfer, same thing, Nicolas Cage. At least this one did make $1 million, but as you can see here, it came and went, and that was its legacy. Now for our first major flop of summer 2025, and it's sad that it's this movie, but Thunderbolts, Asterisk, or The New Avengers, whatever you want to call it. Okay, with this movie. Now, when this movie was first announced, no one really cared about it. I didn't care about it either. I just thought it was just a whatever project. But then I started seeing, promotional material and like trailers. I'm like, okay, maybe Marvel has something here. Because this movie basically presented itself as Marvel's Suicide Squad. That's basically how it looked. That's how it was sold, more or less. But then I saw reviews and people were just like, oh my God, like they were just praising it. Like, this is great. Marvel's so back, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, maybe Marvel does actually have something here. And then I watched the movie and you know what? It was really good. I was just like, damn, okay, Marvel, they really do have something here. They finally, after years of inconsistent quality, a bunch of mediocrity, and some straight up trash at times, they finally have something really solid on their hands. Like a movie with, good characters, less reliance on like stupid Marvel-esque humor, a movie where I actually gave a damn about what was going on. And I had a post-credit scene that actually made me hyped. Same goes with Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm like, okay, so quality-wise, this movie was it. So what happened to its box office? Why did it do so lackluster? Because it opened with 74 million, which is on the lower end for an MCU flick. Its legs weren't that bad. They were like moderate, but only made like 190 million domestically, 382 million worldwide on a budget of 180 million. That's not great. That's really not good at all. That's actually worse than Captain America Brave New World, which was also seen as a flop earlier this year. And in terms of all the Marvel movies, worldwide, I'm not sure where this ranks, but I feel like the only okay, finally see it's like near the bottom, like damn near the bottom. The only movies that did worse were Black Widow, Captain America: First Avenger, Incredible Hulk, and the Marvels. So yeah, right near the bottom. That's not great. That is pretty rough. So why did this happen? Right? Why did a movie that was received so well not do well at the box office? Right? So the thing about it is that this movie had the same issue that the Marvels had, where you had characters and from like other movies and Disney Plus shows, right? Like in the movie. And the thing is that Marvel made the very foolish assumption that all Marvel fans were going to watch everything related, to the MCU. So movies, shows, all that jazz. The thing is, not everyone did that. So, not everyone who watched the movies watched the shows. So when you have movies based on the shows, people are going to be very confused. They're going to be very, thrown off by it. And that was the problem the Marvels had. That was the problem Captain America: Brave New World had. And that's the problem this had, because it just feels like homework at that point. So, and not to mention, like with this movie, with the exception of like Bucky, everyone else was either in a Disney Plus show or in a Marvel movie no one really remembers. So, say Black Widow or Ant Man and the Wasp, you know. And for Disney Plus shows like Falcon Winter Soldier and stuff like that. So, yeah. Yeah, so this movie flopping, it's not the most surprising thing in the world. I had to go through some hurdles, as I meant the Disney Plus show hurdles. But it's a shame it happened because the movie was legitimately really good. Like this and Fantastic Four First Steps, I thought were really solid. And I'm hoping Marvel doesn't take like the wrong lessons here, where they just look at the box office like, "Oh, we can't do that because the people didn't show up, so we got to go back to what works." I'm using an asterisk for that. What works? Because like this, I feel like quality wise is what Marvel needs. If it wants to really come back stronger than ever, if it really wants to like get past like the end game slump, like and like be reborn again, movies with the quality of this is what they need. And will we get more movies like that? I mean, we'll see what happens with Spider-Man Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday. Like, really, what Marvel's waiting for is Secret Wars, because after that, they're able to fully like reset the universe. That is the plan. To reset it and then like basically start with like a clean slate. And so for them, yeah, 2027 can't come fast enough. So, yeah, but it's a shame Thunderbolts didn't do as well as it should have. It should have done better, but it didn't. So that really sucks. Now we move on to May 9th. A bunch of movies here no one cared about at all. First, we got Fight or Flight, which, didn't really, make much of an impact. Only opened like 2 million. And then it was gone, just like that. Juliet and Romeo, same thing, except it did even worse. Like it didn't even open with like a million, not even like 500K. It literally opened with like 289K. Like god damn, and then it was gone. And then Shadow Force, this right here, which this is one of those movies I think I mentioned in like my May recap, maybe in my prediction video as well. This does not look like a theatrical movie. This looks like a Prime Video action movie. That's what this looks like, straight up. And surprise, surprise, even though it was the only movie that weekend that had like a proper like the widest release, no one gave a damn about it. Almost $2 million, and it didn't even make 4 million total on a budget of like 40 million. That's just terrible, just straight up terrible. No other way to describe it. Yeah, that was May 9th, a complete waste of a weekend. Maybe summer would have been better had they put something of substance that weekend. It would have helped a lot. So that's kind of like on Hollywood for that one, not scheduling shit right. Oh boy, hurry up tomorrow. Oof. Okay. So this right here was the weekend's movie. Very much his vanity project, where it was a companion piece to like the the his album, which came out like earlier this year. And initially, I was foolish to believe this, but initially, like I saw the trailer, I was like, "Huh, this actually looks kind of interesting. Maybe I should check it out." Thank God I didn't do that because I heard like some horrible, just horrendous things about this movie, and that deterred me from ever going to watch it. And that was the same for pretty much everybody else because this movie just went nowhere, nowhere fast. Opened with $3 million. It's might have one of the most front loaded, front loaded runs for a wide release I think I've ever seen. I mean, look at that Friday numbers, Thursday numbers, like way bigger than it should be for its Friday number. And look at that 75% drop Friday to Saturday. That is crazy. That is just unbelievable. Not even Joker 2 had a drop off like that Friday to Saturday. And then after that, it was just gone. Just absolutely gone. And I would say no one will remember this, but people will remember it because it will absolutely be on people's worst of 2025 like movies list. Like it will absolutely be like on a lot of worst of the year lists out there because I heard this movie was just straight trash. And like and one last, and I guess I can end it with like the weekend. That dude should just stop acting. Acting is not his thing. He is not good at it. It is not his strong suit. He should stay with music. Just stick with what you're good at. Okay? Because acting is not it. And Jenna Ortega, like, you probably need a new agent to get you some better roles because this isn't it either. So, yeah. Now we go on to May 23rd, where that was like the big weekend of the summer and the whole year. First, we have Last Rodeo, which, didn't do like, I guess, horrendously, but didn't do good. Because I looked it up and compared to its budget, it was kind of a bust. Because I'm pretty sure its budget was like 20, 30 mil. Let me see just to be sure. The Last Rodeo. What was its budget? Budget. Give me a budget. Okay, it was 8 million. So 15 million's not like terrible, but it's not like great. Oh, but like 5 million. Its legs were just as you can see. And then it's kind of faded away. But this is kind of par for the course for Angel Studios. A lot of their movies tend to be like 20 million or less. Like there's like with two exceptions being Sound of Freedom and King of Kings. Will they be able to like, increase like their track record, like increase how many successes they have? Maybe, but it's not happening now. So, yeah. Yeah, and I just don't understand their logic of releasing their movies next to like massive blockbusters. Like they think some people are just gonna gravitate towards their movies. Like, no, that really hasn't happened. So yeah, it feels like a more of like a scheduling mistake than anything. Okay, and then our second big miss of summer 2025, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Okay, so with this, well, it's an easy explanation because look at this budget. 400 mil for this movie. Granted, this movie had to go through a lot. It had this and its predecessor, Dead Reckoning, had to go through a lot with COVID and strikes and whatnot. So that's gonna obviously cause a cost to balloon. I get that, but yeah, this movie was in a hole a serious hole, and the only way it was ever gonna get out of that hole is if this movie like did crazy business, and you never want to be in that situation. Like ideally, you want to have like a budget where you're like, okay, it won't be too much of an effort to be a success, but you don't want to like put yourself in a situation where it's like do or die. like like you don't want to do that, and that's what this movie did. Even though like if you ignore the budget, like for Mission Impossible standards, it didn't do bad. Almost 64 million. That's the best of the whole series, and it was number two that weekend after Lilo and Stitch, and it made like 197 million domestically, 597 million worldwide. That's better than, as I can show you, right here. It's better than Dead Reckoning or Dead Reckoning Part One, because Final Reckoning was supposed to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2, but then Dead Reckoning Part 1 flopped because it was a victim of Barbenheimer. So they changed the name. Didn't really help things, but it did better. But that budget was just a killer, though, an absolute killer, and it was never going to succeed. It was never going to get past that. So, yeah. And the thing is, the movie wasn't even like that bad. I mean, personally, I think some Mission Impossible movies are better. I think this movie kind of it went a little too hard with spectacle, like spectacle over substance. But it was still like a cool spectacle, and I guess it was a decent enough end to the series because this is very much the end. Sorry about that. That's someone outside, and the honking the horn again. Great, I love outside noise interrupting my videos. It's just wonderful. Anywho, I mean, this is the end of the series. So there's no Mission Impossible 9. So, I mean, it's not like you have to worry about the future. So, unless they make like a reboot in like 20, 30 years. But, with Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, its box office is not good. Especially considering its budget. If the budget was like half as much as it is, it was like 200 mil, this would be great. But it's not. So it's very much a miss. Big old miss. But some movies have done worse compared to their budgets, Snow White. So, I mean, could be worse. Now we move on to May 30th with Karate Kid Legends. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait a minute, Malik. How are you going to call this a flop? How are you going to call this a loser? It technically made its money back. Yes, that is true. It made 114 million worldwide on a budget of 45 million. Technically, that is a success. I am putting it in this video because compared to other Karate Kid movies, especially the last one, its numbers are dismal. Okay? So compare this to, oh my God, who is doing, whatever. Compare this to 2010's Karate Kid, right? And Karate Kid Legends is, technically a follow-up to that and Cobra Kai. It's weird, but 2010 Karate Kid with Jaden Smith, that opened with 55 million, made 176 million domestically, worldwide made 351 million on a budget of 40 mil. Great. Fantastic numbers. Karate Kid Legends, almost 20 mil. Made 52 million domestically. So it made less in its total than what Karate Kid 2010 made in 3 days. And worldwide, it's not even close. So to call it a winner, I would just be lying, pretty much. So that's why it's here. So yeah, like compared to the last movie, it did terrible. And probably a big reason is the fact that this movie came out like right after Lilo and Stitch, which made like all the money. So to have like this come after that was probably a big old error. And there's also the fact that, with this being connected like Cobra Kai and whatnot, some people have said, Cobra Kai went on for so long with so many seasons. People are just like, well, why do I need to watch a Karate Kid movie in theaters? I have Karate Kid at home. I could just watch that instead. And I feel like most people did that. and that resulted in its box office not being very good. So, yeah, like technically it wasn't like a disaster, but compared to the last Karate Kid, it is weak, very weak. So yeah, that's why I'm calling it a loser. That's what's in this video. So that was May. Yeah, May did not had a lot of negativity to it. And the same applies for June. Okay, so time for some, another small movie here with Dangerous Animals, which I mean did better than some of the other movies, but not by much. 1.5 million opening, and then it just disappeared right after that. So not much else to say about that. But now our next main flop, Ballerina, or From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. So this right here is a spin-off to John Wick. John Wick, 1, 2, 3, and 4, all seen as like really, really, really good action movies. John Wick was the movie that like changed Keanu Reeves' career. Like it brought in like the Keanu Sans, if you will. And each John Wick movie made more than the last. It was seen like that series was seen as invincible. Like nothing would ever happen to it. And then this movie happened, and yeah, that invincibility. Well, it was shot with this. As it opened with 24 million, made 58 million domestically, 131 million worldwide on a budget of 90 million. Oof, flop, straight up. And the thing is, it wasn't like a quality thing because I thought the movie was pretty darn good. It gave people wanted like a John Wick experience, and this is a John Wick experience, except this time he's not the main character. Like it's Ana de Armas's character here. And that's where I feel like the movie, that was like the fatal error of this movie. It pulled a Furiosa, where both like this and that were both, big, action franchises, like, male-centric action franchises with like a male lead, Mad Max and John Wick. Then you made a spinoff where, well, in Furiosa, Mad Max is nowhere in sight. Here, John Wick's in the movie. He's a minor character, but he's still there. But still, to basically replace the main character like that and expect everybody to and just basically make it the same, like people just didn't gravitate towards it. They didn't gravitate towards Furiosa. They didn't gravitate towards this either. And it's a shame because both movies I think are quite good. So yeah, to make a spin-off without like the main character, I mean spin-offs like as a whole are a risky endeavor because they're considered like inconsequential by a lot of moviegoers, and maybe they can do really well. But sometimes people just like, this is just a side story. Why do I need to watch this? This isn't essential. So, yeah, Ballerina. Yeah, it was a flop. Makes you wonder if they're gonna really go through like the rest of the John Wick movies and shows they want to do. Like, is that a good idea at this point? I don't think so. Like, I wouldn't even make a John Wick Chapter 5. I know they want to. They're planning on it, but I feel like it would just be weird since John Wick died in Chapter 4. So what are you gonna do? Resurrect him? Make him like invincible, like a Fast and Furious character? Like I don't know, but I feel like this was definitely a miss financially, and I feel like Lionsgate should probably stop while they're ahead with their plans. So yeah, so that was Ballerina. Yeah. Next we got Phoenician Scheme, if it ever loads. um I don't think. Okay, here we go. Phoenician Scheme from Wes Anderson. Yeah, this movie, it didn't. Well, it predictably didn't do all that great. It didn't like set the world on fire. Only made like 19 million, 40 million worldwide. I think the budget was like, I don't. Did this even have a public budget? I'm gonna see. Phoenician scheme. What was the budget? 30 mil? Yeah, it's definitely a miss. But it's not, I'm not surprised because Wes Anderson movies are notoriously niche. A lot of them don't do that great financially, even though they're like super well received most of the time. Sometimes there's an exception, like Grand Budapest Hotel. That's his highest grossing movie. But yeah, this is very much for Wes Anderson fans and Wes Anderson fans alone. That was it. Like everyone else just kind of just was just like, whatever. So yeah, but it was well received. So if you're like a Wes Anderson fan, like this is like your movie. But for everyone else, they just ignored it. So yeah, not much else to really say about it. And then gotta go like scroll down. Okay. Okay, where's okay? Technically, I did cover The Ritual. I did make a prediction video for that, so I'll just talk about it here. Well, in hindsight, I shouldn't have because it wasn't even a wide release, but it didn't make any money anyway. So like, just didn't want to mention that. Now we move on to June 13th. First, we have Unholy Trinity, a small movie nobody cared about and nobody watched. 500K opening. Um, just disappeared right after that. Moving on. Now we got Life of Chuck. Okay, so this movie right here, even with like the name brand like Stephen King, even though it was made by Mike Flanagan, who has a lot of cred like in the horror sphere, even though this isn't even a horror movie. Even despite those two names, no one gave a good goddamn about this movie. It just fizzled out there. It didn't even do great like in its limited run, and then it went wide and it went nowhere. And apparently the movie was like wasn't well. I'm pretty sure it was positively reviewed. The Life of Chuck. There we go. Let me try to find it. Yeah, it was received well, but the people just didn't show up. So yeah, sad situation, but it is what it is. That's just how shit works sometimes. Good movies just don't get seen, and bad movies make all the money. So that's just how it is. Now we move on to June 20th. Okay. Well, before we talk about Elio, we got to talk about Brideheart for a quick moment. Yeah, this movie, its box office numbers here aren't even like available. I'm pretty sure I only read it like in an article. Like, pretty sure it was like in the 100,000 range when it comes to box office, but it doesn't matter. Nobody watched it, nobody liked it, and no one will remember it. So, moving on. Elio. Okay. Ooh, boy. So this is Pixar's latest flick. As you know, last year, Pixar had Inside Out 2, which ended up being their biggest hit ever, something I never would have predicted, period. Like the what happened with that movie was a real shock to me. So yeah, all the success, all the money. This year, it's like polar opposite. It is like feast or famine, pretty much. It's an insane drop off, to say the least, because Elio only made 153 million, which I'm pretty sure is less than what Inside Out 2 opened with. I need to check to make sure like I'm right. I am right. Holy shit. Inside Out 2, its opening weekend, made more money than Elio made worldwide. And worldwide, it's the second. Well, I'm not counting Soul, Luca, and Turning Red because of the Disney Plus thing. Um, I guess Onward 2, technically, that movie had to deal with, external, COVID and whatnot, removing it from theaters, so I'm not really counting that. In terms of, like, Pixar movies with normal releases, this is the worst performing one, by far and away. Lightyear did better than this. Like, shit. Like, goddamn. Like, this is what I thought would happen with Elemental last year. Elemental had like a really horrible debut, and a lot of people immediately wrote it off as a flop, myself included. But Elemental was able to save itself and find an audience and do not so bad, in the end. Elio could not replicate that. I didn't expect it to replicate that because that's expecting lightning to strike twice. And like 99.9% of the time, it doesn't happen. And in this case, it very much did not happen. So, what went wrong with this specifically? Why did no one care about Elio? Well, I have some thoughts. I think the marketing is like the biggest thing. A lot of people have mentioned how Disney just felt like they're throwing it out there, like they put in like no real effort into the marketing, so let the people just be like, wait a minute, is this a new Pixar movie? Like people just didn't know. People think that's like the main culprit, but really, I don't. The movie itself just never looked like an event. It never looked that interesting. It never grabbed my attention. Like when I saw like trailers for this movie from like other movies, not once was I like, damn, okay, I need to see that. That never happened. It never grabbed me. Like it's not hard for a movie to like get my attention. Okay, there are plenty of movies that with a good trailer, can make me go, okay, I'll watch that. Movies like Companion and Sinners and Weapons and 28 Years Later, stuff like that. But this just never gravitated towards me. Maybe it's just like the premise just felt kind of safe for Pixar standards. Didn't feel like ambitious at all. The movie felt very kiddie more than the average Pixar movie. And all that just kind of resulted in the movie just not doing well. I guess there's also the fact this movie was delayed like a lot. It was supposed to come out in 2024, but then the strikes happened, and so they pushed it to 2025. And they already released like a trailer and everything, which was a big mistake. Big old mistake, because when you do that, you risk people forgetting about your movie, and that's what happened. That's like the problem with like a lot of like when movies had like their trailers, their marketing material already, but then COVID happened and those movies got delayed by months and maybe years. Like there was like a big risk of people just forgetting the movie ever existed. And here that's what happened. People just forgot and didn't know it even came out. So that's kind of the fault of circumstances and Disney. So it's not really a quality thing. That's not the fault of that, but it's just, everything else. And there's also the fact that I guess I can mention how the movie was like, there's like some, changes that were made, behind the scenes regarding like the main character and how the movie was supposed to be. And then they just try to make it more, I guess, sanitized, make it more like, you know, I guess more marketable, and lo and behold, that didn't work. So, yeah, this movie was just doomed from the get go. At this point, it feels like sequels are the only thing that are going to keep Pixar afloat. It's the only thing that's going to pay their bills. They got Toy Story 5 next year, which I'm not looking forward to really, but that should make them some money. And then like their next original movie, I think it's Gato, that's in 2027, which actually has like a okay, I forgot to mention. The big thing people didn't like about this movie was the art style, the bean mouth art style, as it's now known. Just people thought it looked very just it just didn't look good to people. Like several Pixar movies had like the same type of style, where people were just like, "Bro, change your style. Look what's happening like outside of like your offices, like with Spider Verse and Pixar with like DreamWorks with like Bad Guys and Puss in Boots Last Wish, and then Paramount with like Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Like try something different. Like be different. Like stop. Like go with different art styles. Like take some risk. And thankfully, they are going to do that with Gato with a different art style. Although now, as I'm making this video, that's sharing a release date with Beyond the Spider Verse, and I'm pretty sure Gato's not going to stick around and fight off Beyond the Spider Verse, so it's probably going to move. But yeah, Pixar, like, something has to change. They got to get their act together, or like things need to just be better because they can't afford too many flops like this. They just can't. I mean, more flops like that are just gonna, say that, oh, people don't give a damn about original animated movies, and that is not something I want to see. Okay, I want original animated movies. So if they keep on flopping, there's like a less chance we're gonna get them, and I don't want that. So yeah. Now we move on to June 27th with another big old flop. Megan 2.0. Oh boy. Now with some flops are hard to explain. Some flops were, it seemed like, some people were interested in it, had good reviews, a good release date, but still no one showed up. And you're just like, what happened? Here, this movie's failure is very easy to explain because this movie made some fatal errors. Because the first Megan was a movie that, blew up. It became viral because of, the trailer and, Megan dancing and whatnot. Became a big old, internet thing. And then that translated into people watching the movie, and the movie ended up actually being really good. It resulted in the movie being a big success. So like a sequel seemed like a no-brainer. And ideally, you stick with what works, right? Like if your predecessor is well liked, you keep the aspects, you keep or enhance the aspects that made it work. That's not what this movie did. It changed things up, changed things drastically. It changed genres. So it went from like a horror movie to like a sci-fi robo action flick. And that was the worst decision this movie could have ever made. Because all you're doing is alienating the people who liked the first movie. Because when they watch the sequel, they're just going to be like, what the hell is this? Why is everything different? It's exactly what happened with Joker 2, where Joker 1 was like this psychological, thriller type movie. And then Joker 2, they said, let's make it a musical. That's what the people want. And lo and behold, the people didn't want that. So, yeah, this movie made the same mistake as Joker 2. And Joker 2 was like arguably the biggest flop of last year. And Megan 2.0, sure, it's not the biggest flop of 2025. Movies have done way worse than this. But it was also a big flop, especially compared to its predecessor. Only opened with like $10 million. Made 24 million domestically, 39 million worldwide on a budget of 25 million. That's not good. Compared to its predecessor, it's just embarrassing. It's even more embarrassing than Karate Kid Legends, really. I mean, look at this. 30 million, 10 million, 95 million, 24 million, 181 million, 39 million. So Megan 2.0, despite a prime summer release date, made less than a fourth of what a January movie did. Like, what is going like, how do you mess up that bad? Like, truly. And the movie wasn't even good. I thought it was gonna be like, I was hoping it would be like, so, like a really campy, like entertaining movie, and it just didn't give me that. So it was just a disappointing experience all around. So yeah, the fact that it flopped as hard as it did was kind of surprising, but not surprising at the same time. And what's more weird is that we got a spin-off movie coming in January, Soulmate. Well, that movie was already filmed and made, so Universal wasn't just going to cancel it. But now it's in a really awkward situation because Megan 2.0 was such a bust. So what are you going to do about that movie? Like, I don't know. They have several months to figure it out. And for Blumhouse, this was another miss for them this year. They've had a whole lot of just they just haven't been able to get it together in like damn near 2 years. Like their last major hit was Five Nights at Freddy's. Ever since then, none of their movies have been able to like really pop off. I mean, some have done like okay, like say Speak No Evil, but most just didn't land. And this year has been especially brutal. Like Wolfman, what was it? Yeah, Wolfman, Woman Yard, Drop, this all flopped. None of them did well, and it's a serious issue as I'm showing you here. Like none of them can reach 25 million domestically. That's a serious issue. Now with Black Phone 2, that should do better. That should absolutely do better. Same with Five Nights at Freddy's too, but there is still a serious problem Blumhouse has. Like they got some soul searching they gotta do if they need to get back to the glory days where they can make like a Five Nights at Freddy's type money. Like maybe Black Phone 2 could be the start of reliving those glory days. I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping it does well because I actually am looking forward to it. But yeah, Megan 2.0 was a huge mistake, a big old mistake. And that's the end of June. Now we're gonna skip through July because there wasn't a whole lot of movies that came out in July. So we move through right to mid-July with 3 movies right here, and none of them doing well. First, we have Eddington, a movie that I knew damn well was not going to do well because of the subject matter, being, this movie taking place in 2020, May of 2020, so 5 years ago during COVID times, and that just how not fun that era was. And this movie was basically just like a period piece of that. So I knew, like, because of that, like, it wasn't going to get like a wide audience. And the fact that the movie got like very polarized reaction didn't help. And yeah, it ended up only making like 10 million domestically. I watched it because the trailer, intrigued me. So there's another example of like a movie, a trailer can really grab me. Something Elio was just never able to do. But yeah, I watched it. It was an interesting, like a fascinating experience. But I completely understand why the movie just didn't do well. Because this movie was never going to be, it was just doomed to be niche. It was doomed to just not have a wide audience. And that's what happened. It didn't get a wide audience. So, yeah, I don't regret watching it though. Then we got I Know What You Did Last Summer. And just like Karate Kid Legends, technically, this movie made its money back. Only cost like 18 million, made 63 million worldwide, so technically that's a success. But I can't call it a success because it did worse than the previous movies that came out in the 90s. Like that's just embarrassing. I mean, look at this. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer. I still know what you did last summer. Both of those opened better and made more money. Well, I guess. Well, I know. Well, but I still know what you did last summer. Like that number, the worldwide number is incorrect. I actually did better than that. I think it. Let me look it up. I still know what you did. How much did that make? Apparently, it made 84 million worldwide, according to Wikipedia. So yeah, this number's not accurate, but still, this newest one, which was like a legacy sequel, like did worse than both of them. Like at least Scream 5 did better than Scream 4. Okay. Like even movies that, like Final Destination Bloodlines and 28 years later, they did better than their predecessors by a substantial degree. This did worse. so, and so just, yeah. That's why it's a loser. And it's going to be a movie no one's going to remember. It's a movie no one really asks for because, I mean, sure, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, yes, it was like a big 90s horror movie. Yes, it was like one of the main focuses of scary movie besides Scream. But, I mean, it's not like it had like this great, reputation. It's like this not like Scream, where that series became iconic, in the horror sphere. I Know What You Did Last Summer never really reached that. It never reached the level of Scream. So, yeah, I don't know what they were expecting here. But yeah, it ended up being, a movie that it came out. No one really cared about it all that much. And it's a movie that I know damn well will be forgotten about in due time. So, yeah. But at least it wasn't this next movie I'm going to be talking about as soon as this loads one of these days. Shoot. Oh, I love when this happens because god damn it, this is a movie I've been wanting to talk about and tear apart. Yes, Smurfs. The one with Rihanna as Smurfette. Yeah. This movie, I dreaded even talking about it. I dreaded making a prediction video on it because it looked awful. It looked like absolute trash. Everyone thought it looked like absolute trash. It didn't need to be this way, but this movie went the route of just making just a dumb kids movie, not like a movie that kids and parents can enjoy, just a movie that small children can enjoy, and that's it. And because of that, and just like the severe lack of quality with the movie, yeah, it did not do well. It did piss poor, really, especially domestically. Almost 11 million, made 31 million world domestically, which is just terrible. Worldwide, it did better, but not enough to save it. And this is the worst performance Smurfs movie. In fact, as I'm going to show you, every Smurfs movie has done worse than the last, ever since the first one in 2011. That first movie did great, did amazing, 500 mil. Like that's incredible. And then you can see just a steep decline after that. Very steep decline. It just never got better. It only got worse. So at this point, is it even worth making another Smurfs movie? Because the public doesn't give a shit anymore. They only gave a shit that one time, and that was it. It was just downhill from there. So, yeah, this movie was an absolute miss. It's going to go down as one of the worst movies of 2025. It's going to have the reputation of being, having Rihanna's Smurfette just plastered on every bit of advertising, which was just a weird decision because I don't know what they expected. Did they really expect people who liked Rihanna and her music to be like, oh my God, Rihanna? She's Smurfette? Well, damn, I gotta go watch the movie now. Like, no. No. That's not. No. Like, seriously. Yeah, so I'm kind of glad this movie didn't do well because nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. And will we see another Smurfs movie? I would be amazed if we did at this point because these movies are basically bleeding cash. So to make another movie, like you'd have to be just straight up crazy. Or you just have some incredible idea that just needs to be out there. Because until then, yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be the last Smurfs movie for a long time. Very long time. So, yeah. And now, as soon as this loads again, I mean, like, pretty much, like, most of the movies I'm going to be talking about after this are just, like, small movies, so it's not, like, a big deal. But, yeah, like, all these movies here, like, The Home, which, I saw, like, the trailer for this movie, like, several times, and it just didn't look good. And I knew damn well no one was going to watch it, and nobody did watch it, just came and went. Same goes for House of Eaten, which apparently I learned later is like made by YouTubers. Did not know that. No one really paid attention to it in theaters. And then you got. Well, I didn't even cover this movie. Oh, hi, I might as well. I mean, I guess it didn't really make much of an impact either. As you can see here, just crashed and burned. That was July. Actually, wait, I gotta scroll down. Okay. That was July. Now we move on to August. Okay. We got some more small movies. I don't think I mentioned Sketch. Did I? I don't think I did. Not in my winter video, but Sketch, I mean, technically, I guess I forgot about it. But I mean, the movie, like, it came, came and went. Didn't really help Angel Studios' track record because the movie like did like kind of okay opening day and then just collapsed after that, which I found kind of odd. But I mean, I guess it could have been worse with this. And then what else? Strange Harvest. No one paid attention to this, as you can see by its box office. So it's that. And then August 15th. Oof. This was such a nothing weekend. The last 3 weeks of August were just nothing. Just absolute nothingness going on. We got So first we got Americana, which, you know, I don't even have box office numbers here, but apparently opened with like 150 like K or something like that, which is just horrific. But apparently Lionsgate just didn't care that much. They're like, this is more like a specialty release anyway. But it's still not. It didn't help that the timing wasn't great considering Sydney Sweeney and the whole American Eagle like jeans ad she did. That didn't help things. So yeah, and as a result, no one really cared about the movie. Then you got Jimmy and Stiggs from Eli Roth, or him presenting it, and yeah, it turns out I guess Eli Roth's name just doesn't really sell. You can't sell any movie, and no one gave a damn about this. I mean, 78K per theater average, like, how much is that in dollars? Okay, so literally per theater, that's like $125. So you do the math, tickets cost like what, $10 to $15? So doing the math, that's like what? Like 10, less than 10 people, like the whole weekend? Like, fuck, dude. That is just, ugh, nothing more to say about that. Highest to lowest, okay. This one's a special case where it was very much only released for two. It was released for like 2 weeks, and then it was going to go to Apple TV Plus. So obviously, it was never going to like do that well. Box office wise, only made like 1.5 mil. So not much else really to say because that was like a special case. Nobody two. Okay. This right here, this movie's, this is one of those like failures that kind of like perplexed me because the first Nobody, which came out during like the bleak period of like, the early recovery stage for the box office, like post in the COVID times, that movie, even in the COVID times, it did decent and it was well liked. So you think this movie, being in non-COVID times, it would do better, right? Be like a late August hit. Nope. No. All in open with like 9.2 million, made like 21 million domestically, 39 million worldwide. That's worse numbers than the first movie, which came out under much worse circumstances. So what happened? Like, maybe Universal was hoping for like a John Wick esque boost, and it just never materialized. But it's not really like a quality issue with this because the movie was well received, so people just didn't care, I guess. I don't know, like with what happened with Ballerina and Nobody Two, maybe like action movies or John Wick esque action movies and how they're presented, maybe they're just not appealing the way they used to. Maybe they just aren't clicking the way they used to. Maybe there's a saturation thing. I don't know. I'm only mainly just theories, but Nobody Two just did not do well. It just didn't. So yeah, weird. So that was like August 15th. August 22nd, it was even worse. Thank God for Netflix with K-pop Demon Hunters. If it wasn't for that, this would be like the worst weekend of the whole year. Because goddamn, there's just nothing here, nothing remotely interesting. First, we have Eaton, which was one of those special movies where it was only there for like 2 weeks. The fact that Sydney Sweeney was in this too, it's not great. Granted, she was like one of the many faces of the movie. It's not just her. With The Housemaid coming out in December, open up right directly against Avatar: Fire and Ash. Maybe that'll be the movie that'll, help her out. But this definitely didn't. This helped nobody out. And then we got Honey Don't, the second of the lesbian B movie trilogy from Ethan Cohen. Yeah, these movies, like, first you had Don't Worry, no, not Don't Worry, Darling, Drive Away Dolls last year, which no one cared about, nobody watched. And right here, same thing. Opened with like 3 million, which actually did better than Drive Away Dolls. But yeah, its word of mouth was abysmal for this thing, and it resulted in a very short life in theaters, only making like 5.8 million domestically, 7 million worldwide. Geez, that's just terrible. Apparently, there's supposed to be like a third movie. I forgot what it was about. I think it was about beavers or something. But yeah, I don't like. Who are these movies for? Like, who is the audience? like, I'm guessing. Like, do lesbians would they even like this movie? Because I feel it's geared towards them, right? But do they even like it? I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into it, but I feel like this movie is appealing to the least amount of I'm losing my train of thought. This movie is really appealing to the least amount of people imaginable, and the movies aren't even good to boot. So I don't get what the goal is here. I don't understand, but this is definitely a case of Ethan Cohen. Like, it's best when that he direct with his brother Joel, as the Coen brothers and not just separate. They're better together than separate. I mean, will that be the case for another set of brothers, the Sadi brothers, where they have like Smashing Machine and Marty Supreme coming out? I don't know. I mean, quality wise, judged by Smashing Machine, it's certainly better, but box office wise, I mean, we'll see. But yeah. Then we got Nia Zia 2, the English dub from A24. Nia Zia 2, I mean, that made like damn near like 2 billion, made $1 billion in China, the first time a movie's ever made $1 billion in one single market, something that's yet to happen in the States. So it was an incredible success earlier this year, and like in February, the highest grossing animated movie of all time, beating Inside Out 2. But domestically, I mean, even like it's when it first came out domestically, this was even like the official English dub. It did really good. And then you had the actual English dub, and it just, no one cared about it. Only opened like 1.5 million in like 2,000 theaters. That's dismal. So, but really, it doesn't matter because look at these numbers. Look at these international numbers. Do you think the domestic numbers matter at all? Yeah, no. So, yeah, but still, I mean, no one really cared about it in the States. And then we got Relay, another movie that basically had like a limited release, more or less, where it was there one week, disappeared the next, and that was the end of that. And now we move on to the final weekend of August. Okay, so first we have Caught Stealing from Darren Aronofsky, which will always be weird to say. But yeah, this movie, despite having good reviews, despite the box office being like in a pretty dismal state, so the market was open for like a surprise hit, and it did not happen here. Nope. Open with like 7.8 million. It's made like 18 million domestically. Its run is pretty much over at this point. It made 28 million water. I think the budget was like 40 mil. So yeah, it's a shame. I feel like it will earn itself a cult following. Like, it'll get like a following like when it hits like probably when it hits like Netflix or something. Like, that's when more people will pay attention to it, and you might find some redemption there. But box office in theaters, no one cared. So yeah, it's a shame. Grant, I didn't care that much either. I didn't watch. I wasn't watching any movies in late August. Like I was home that whole time. So yeah, but yeah, it's a shame though. Then we got The Roses, which didn't do a whole lot better. I mean, it did better internationally, I guess, but domestically, nah. Opened with like 6 million, made like 15 million. Like its run is very much over at this point, as you can see here. So yeah, not good. International is probably saving its ass, but I'm not sure how much it cost. Can't imagine it cost that much. How much did it cost? 30. Okay, it's definitely not a flop, but it could have been worse. If thanks to international, it could have international saved it from being like an even bigger embarrassment. So I guess there's that. And then Toxic Avenger Unrated. This was a reboot to a niche movie. So logic dictates the reboot was going to be just this niche, and lo and behold, that's what happened. All but like 1.7 million disappeared. It will have a cult following because the movie was received well, and yeah, I mean, not much else to say. Just it was a niche movie doomed to be niche, and that was it for summer. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of nothing movies that came out in late August. That definitely helped, make sure summer 2025 didn't live up to expectations. There's also the fact that some weekends you could have filled it in with something like substantial, right? You could have done something like the May 9th weekend. Like you could have done something there. Or like July 18th, you could have had something like a much bigger than, you know, sorry about the scrolling. These three movies, like just missed opportunities. Just the missed opportunities all over the place. So, yeah. But so summer 2025, it wasn't terrible. It had its highs. It had big success stories, but yeah, just bad scheduling and just poor choices just resulted in it not being, the best. Now, next year, next summer, will next summer be better? I mean, with Avengers Doomsday in December, well, that was a crushing blow. But I don't know. I mean, we can look at next summer. Actually, let's do that. So sorry about the scrolling again. I know it's not easy on the eyes, but let's look at next summer just for shits and giggles. Obviously, this isn't permanent. Nothing's set in stone. Things could change. But let's look at what we got so far. May is not looking good. May is looking terrible right now. That could change though. But you got Devil Wears Prada 2. Maybe that could make some money because people love the original, but who knows? Mortal Kombat 2, which was supposed to come out next month, but they changed it to May. That could help out the movie, honestly. The Mandalorian Grogu, that just got a trailer earlier this week. A poorly timed trailer considering the whole Jimmy Kimmel shit show. But yeah, I don't know what the vibe with that is. I don't think it's very good. So yeah, I think May's gonna be a loss. June, it looks a lot better. I mean, Toy Story 5 should realistically be a hit. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, considering the solid reputation of Superman, that could help the movie out. Scary Movie 6, that is a question mark because comedy is trying to come back in a big way and it's not going the way it should, really. Could this be the one to, bring it back? Maybe. We'll see. I mean, I'm hoping for the best with that movie. Then we got July. July looks pretty fucking big. You got Minions 3. You got Moana live action. Like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah. The Odyssey. That's going to be the big summer movie right there. Because it's Christopher Nolan. This is the man who made Oppenheimer. He won Oscars for that movie. So yeah, people will watch that movie. People already pay that movie. Literally, tickets were sold for that movie a year in advance. That is not normal for any movie, but they did it and they sold out. So demand's going to be hella high for that movie when it releases. They got Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's a Spider-Man movie, the first live-action Spider-Man movie since No Way Home, which made damn near $2 billion. Will this make $2 billion? No. Does it need to? No. I still see it being a massive hit because it's Spider-Man, and nothing else needs to be said about that. And then for August is obviously very barren right now. Just Paw Patrol, the Dino movie, I guess for like kids. There's that. Insidious, the Red Tail. This should do well because Insidious movies, for some reason, people watch them even though they really shouldn't. The box office history of Insidious makes no sense whatsoever. But I feel like that will be a hit just because of the name. And then Coyote versus Acme, that's going to be a movie I'm going to be interested in talking about because of its history and how Warner Brothers tried to basically kill the movie and just never release it. But Ketchup Entertainment saved it, and now it's going to get an actual release. So good on them. But yeah, that's what summer 2026 looks like right now. Obviously, it's very barren. A lot can change. A lot of movies can, enter summer. Some movies are going to exit summer. You don't really know until like early next year. Like that's when you get a sense of like where things start to get really finalized. So right now it is way too early to say like, yep, this is summer. So yeah, I just wanted to show you like what next year looks like. But yeah, so that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this, you can watch part 1 of my summer 2025 recap. You want to watch my other summer recaps, my other monthly recaps I've made for years. My September recap video is going to come out in about 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time, or like the second weekend of October. So stay tuned for that. If you want to watch any of my recap videos, you can go right ahead. There's also box office predictions where I predict videos for movies. Pretty much every movie I covered here, with the exception of like one, I made a prediction video for. So if you want to watch those videos, any other ones I've done on the channel, you can go right ahead. There's also the Canceled series where I went over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. 250 episodes of that. If you want to binge watch that whole series from beginning to end, I highly suggest you do that. So you can get right to it. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.